Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll call to order the regular council meeting for Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. Is there any public input as the meeting is open to statements from no more than 5 members of the public of no more than 2 minutes in length each? Seeing none, is there, sorry.
Excuse me, I'm just Vivian Birch-Jones, a resident of Lillooet, but also the Area B Director for the Squamish Lillooet Regional District. And I just, 2 things. First of all, I saw in the minutes that you appointed Kevin or Councillor Aiken for the Agricultural Advisory Committee with Area B. I'm really grateful and excited about that. That's good. Also, from the naturalists group, we have a group of birders from BC field ornithologists coming in early June. And there'll be like 40, 50 people coming to town for that event, for their annual general meeting and field trips here. And we're organizing that. And I might invite one of you to come and give a welcome when we do the reception. And I think it's good tourism. It's we can show off Lillooet, but also really show off the biodiversity in the bird world here.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Hey, are there any late additions or deletions?
Yes, there are 2 late additions. There will be under item 6.1 delegations, sort of Q&A session with our fire smart coordinator and fire chief. And then the second late addition will go under section 19.1 closed session at the end of the.
Okay, thank you. Will somebody please move that the September 2nd, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as amended? Councillor Kwan, Councillor Reef, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to delegations. Fire Smart, Roy Wilkinson and Sharon French. Thank you.
Mayor and Council. We've got a invite to the council meeting for Q&A session. We can give you a bit of a rundown of what we've got and ask some questions after, if that's okay. So Sharon's our fire smart coordinator. She's kind of been the boots on the ground, kind of taking care of the 2021 CRI. So this grant we got in 2021. It was I was under Darren, but unfortunately due to that fire season we couldn't quite finish it. So now we're trying to look at wrapping that up this year, but it's been a lot of work. So far what we've got is we have 20 home assessments that are allotted in the grant, and we've got 12 confirmed. We got some potential candidates to fill the extra slots, but due to the amount of work that it's causing, so far we're not sure if we're really wanting to even fill those slots right now. We're just getting rolling on all the assessments. So how the Fire Smart program works, for those of you who don't know, is essentially you call for an assessment. Folks like Sharon, who have gone through a bunch of training to be a wildfire engagement specialist, somebody who can do the assessments properly. There's all sorts of tools and things that you need to be aware of. You call for an assessment, book a time, we go assess your home, we make recommendations, you get a time period to complete those recommendations. So removing cedars, removing whatever, there's a whole list that essentially we give you. And then once you finish that, we submit your invoice, and then you can partake in the rebate program. It's essentially how it works. But we had started a bunch of assessments back in 2021. So we've been trying to play catch up with contacting those folks, kind of just saying, hey, are you still interested? Because they actually do get dibs, even though that we're in 2025. So it's been a bit of a bear to tackle. But we've done some kind of fire smart outreach events for the community. We've got 1 down so far, so we're allotted 3 events in the grant. We've got 1 more booked for the fall. We just need to fill the other one. Also in our grant is free green bin days. So those are the big green waste bins. So essentially we can look at the high hazard areas below it. And then we can put like one of those large green bins there. We're still trying to figure out kind of what can and can't go in there, because I know with the dump, they're pretty particular. So we're working on that right now, but looking at some of the higher hazard areas in Lowell, maybe East Lowell somewhere for sure. Somewhere we don't have hydrants, things like that, in Coots Road. We're putting together listers now. And then you'll see those green bins out there. That's what that's for. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Anything I missed on just the Fire Smart home assessment program?
No, just mainly that it's a pilot program this year because with the funding, when they applied for it a couple of years ago, didn't seem like the homeowners were ready for Fire Smart. And so that's why Darren just did a pilot project with 20 homes capped, just to see if the interest was there. And it seems like the interest is here now. And I think next year would probably be a stronger program, so.
Just to get through this year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot to try and put together just because we didn't write the grant, we weren't a part of it. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, just getting an understanding of the grant and then getting all the paperwork that's required for homeowners to participate. But we'll be ready for next year.
Yeah, the administration side's been a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously we have to adhere to the Fire Smart standards of BC, so we can't really go outside of that scope. It's been tricky.
Thank you, thanks, guys. I really appreciate coming in and having a discussion with council on this. Not just Sharon, but Corey was up at 3 o'clock this morning dealing with an incident. So I really appreciate the fact that our fire chief was out this morning at 3 this morning, up running around doing stuff, and then was back in again early doors this morning for another session with me on different items. But the advantage of where we've ended up is we have Sharon on board with us, which is fantastic. Last year we didn't have that. We were trying to get people on board with it. We couldn't get anyone to deal specifically with this Fire Smart project. It's kind of sat at events. It's been sitting kind of bumbling away, not doing anything. That's been nobody's fault in the municipality, other than the fact of trying to find something. We kind of begged, borrowed and poached Shannon from other teams to get her here to actually work with us. And she's been very modest about the work that she's done with Corey. They've done a phenomenal amount of work to get this up and going again, and to try and get it kind of wrangled back in and discussing this with the problems, making sure that it's aligned for what we want to try and do from moving forward. So it has been capped last year. This year, we're trying to get those ones out and over and done with, trying to get that finalised, finished. And it's hard because there's now a new group of kind of funding out, and it's slightly more, I believe, than the last ones, which is upsetting the last group of people because they're not getting paid as much as the new group of people, and it's kind of jumping around a little bit like that. So we're trying to get the old projects off, clear the slate, and then move forward with the next one. So it's a big kind of leap forward in what we're trying to do with it. But again, it's been a lot of work, and we've had a couple of meetings. I've been in maybe 2 or 3 meetings with the team just now to try and look at this. And there is a great amount of work that's going to get done this year, but then next year is going to be another step up into an awful lot more work.
Yeah, it'll run smoother if we're the ones who help apply for the grant and know what's in it and know what's expected. That's the big issue. We don't know kind of the background behind all of it.
Through there. I have a couple of questions, actually. I believe it was Sharon that contacted me earlier
Yes.
in the spring,
Mhm.
and am I supposed to contact you to set up a time?
No,
Or are you just going to,
I'll be in touch with you. We're still waiting on paperwork.
okay,
And then I decided to just start the assessments without the paperwork. And I am meeting with Daniel tomorrow to work on the paperwork. Because we need a legal form for a homeowner to cover any liabilities with the district, so.
okay.
Yeah, I will be in touch. And I was doing assessments, but it got too hot, so I've had to cancel the assessments. So now we've had every hurdle you could possibly imagine, and then some. So it's been 3 weeks of the heat, and so now I'm attempting to do the assessments in the morning and then go into their cool air conditioning in the afternoon. So.
Okay, I have a second question.
Mhm.
I don't have bird yet. I have a really large spruce tree, which at one time was told I had to get taken down. I'm in the process of getting it taken down. Can I still submit that even though you haven't done my assessment yet?
Interesting topic.
Yeah, so,
I mean, it's huge. It's
yeah,
like up there in the fire.
so how the Fire Smart program works, it's obviously, it started out as Fire Smart Canada, but now we're so advanced in British Columbia that we've broken away and it's Fire Smart British BC. And how they want us to do this is if they're gonna give us the money, because they want us to go out, assess your property. We can make it a recommendation if we see that it's an issue, and then once you take care of it, then we can submit it.
So can you show up tomorrow at 7?
Yeah.
I don't know what time they're coming, but they're coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's a joke. But anyway, it'll be what it is. And my other question is, we share a cedar hedge. I'm going to say we share it because the people that originally owned the property had planted it, not us. But the new owners now, can we both submit a claim on that to take it down if it's assessed that way?
Yeah,
Or is that tricky?
yeah,
Gray.
yeah, as far as I know, it has to be one assessment.
Okay.
And on the land that cedars are on, like I know a lot of conifers and branches overhang on the other person's property and you can, trim them back up to your side of the property. But if the trunks are on your property, then that's.
Yeah,
my
right down the
understanding.
fence line.
And I'm not
Yeah,
on bylaws as well, so, okay, good
Yeah.
question though, yeah,
Good
good
check.
questions, yeah.
Thank you. And so fun.
Through there, do we get penalized or anything if we don't fill in the spots for this grant or have it used before we can apply for the next one? Do we have to pay anything back or?
yeah, so if we don't use the money, we have to send it back. Yeah, so that's why we're rushing to try and get this done.
Okay, but then basically we finish this one before you are able to apply for the next one, which is the
Yeah,
dollar amount.
yeah,
Okay,
correct.
and how much of a rebate can people get up to?
Up to $1,000 in this grant.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to spend $1,000 to get $1,000.
Yeah, like if the task list I give you comes to $5,000, you'll only get 1,000. And you can only claim or get the work done on the recommendations that I write out. You can't go rogue and do your own thing and,
So you use it for something else.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then it's
The problem, but this looks really nice.
yeah, and then so I do it free and come and write the tasks, and then I give you the task list, and then you find your own arborist or, do the work yourself, or you can hire a landscaper or a handy person to come and do the work for you. And then we need invoices submitted as well, and then I come back and check that you've done the work. So then that's called a post assessment. And then everything goes to the CFO, I guess, because they're the ones that cut the checks. And I would be the one to, yep, go ahead, pay, it's all true, like it's all, they did what they said they were gonna do and everything, and then, yep, the CFO would cut the check down. Okay, thank you.
In this program now, if the landowner does it himself, how do you submit a bill for that? Like, how you figuring that out?
yeah, so there's recommended, and like a recommended hourly wage that Fire Smart gives us. And then we essentially give you a form to fill out according to each task.
Yeah,
Okay.
and good question, and I think I brought them. So, when I come and write out your task list, it's called an hours estimate form. So I estimate how many hours I feel it's gonna take for you to do each task. And the rate is at $32 an hour at the moment, or for 2025. And so, taking down a cedar hedge or a tree or something would be 8 hours at $32 an hour. So then I give you another form. It's called an hours tracking form. So then you write down how long it takes you to do, and how long it took you to do each task. And then all those forms need to be handed in as well.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have another question. So when you're doing all of these things, do you get to submit your bill from the SLRD dump? Because they do charge us to get rid of certain things.
Yeah, if it's to do with Buy Smart and it's part of your task list, keep that receipt and then you can submit that. So you either give us your originals or you keep the copy or you keep the original and give us the copy.
I'm sorry.
Through the mayor, just outside of the whole grant and assessment side of things, I'm here to tell the homeowner sort of the top 3 things they should do to fire smart their homes, but what would this be? I'm sure the deer are helping with the cedars and stuff, somewhat.
Yeah, if I had to give any advice would be, it's called your immediate zone. So that's up to, was it the first
0 to 1.4.
0 to 1.5 meters? That's called your immediate zone. So from all of the info from all the fires, you know, through the province or Canada or whatever, that immediate zone is the most dangerous zone. So right up to your house, up to that 1.5 meter zone. So removing any vegetation and creating a non-combustible surface. So whether you're keeping your grass below, remember what it is,
10 centimeters.
10 centimeters, or if you're gonna put rock in or whatever. But it's that immediate zone, ensuring that branches aren't hanging in the immediate zone, because that's what's gonna essentially extend the fire onto your property, right?
And it's all about ambers too, because, you know, under the awnings and things, it's a great place to store wood to keep it dry, high and dry and out of the weather. And so the more personal items and combustibles that you have around your home, the closest to your home, which is the immediate zone, the more opportunity there is for ambers to land on the surface area. So the more built up items you have or flammables, it's more opportunity for ambers to land and start fires, because it's usually ambers that burn houses down. I mean, flames do too, but science says it's an amber transference where houses can burn down before the flames even come.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the green bins, so these green bins, they would be for shrubs and trees and branches and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And where, like, so if we were to take East Lova, where would you put them? Would that be on private property? Would it be on the roadway? Would it be at the bottom? Where?
Yeah, we've chatted with some of the private property owners up to that East Lowell Road. And there is one specific spot that has been kind of, they said that they'd be interested in us putting it there, you know, for the entire area though,
And they would stay there
for
for,
the day. That's it.
oh, okay, just for the day.
Yeah.
Alright.
So, or, yeah, I mean, for the day, it would probably fill in pretty quick.
And my other question is, sometimes delegations will want to take questions from the audience. I'm just wondering if you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Maybe the lady from East Lowell? There you go.
Pine Ridge Road,
Mhm.
we're pretty vulnerable there, and I've done some fire smarting and received lots of support and some good advice from Sharon in the past, thank you. We'd be happy to have that green bin program on Pine Ridge, and there's a couple of spots I can think of that would be convenient there's 18 residences on Pine Ridge, they're not all occupied and they might not all participate, but there might be some interest and I'd be happy to be a contact to promote it. Yeah.
Thank you.
That'd be so great. And that was part of the pilot program too, was the people who participated in 2022 got gigs, but also folks who were high hazard, low water, they also got tips on the program as well.
Anybody else? And no more questions? Thank you so much for doing this delegation on the Fire Smart. Yeah, it's nothing ever happened. It's great.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Please, Corey. Next turn. Move on to the consent agenda. Before we do, if anyone wishes to remove any of the correspondence items, please raise your hand. Councilor Khan.
I would like to remove 7.1.4, the power outage. And also 7.1.7 for the, log permit delays.
Excellent.
I have the same too.
Okay. Okay, we'll move those to under new business. Will somebody please move the remainder of the consent agenda items received? Councilor Week, Councilor Aiken, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to staff reports, 9.1, strategic priorities fund resolution support.
So in order for the district of Lillowhead to advance with the strategic priorities fund, that application, we use a council resolution. We've looked at a number of the different streams, and there is two streams. There's one stream for a capital building, and then there's one for feasibility, so the planning side of things. The capital is up to $7 million, and the feasibility is also in that $750 to $1 million. So we can apply for both of them completely. But the district of Lillowhead has been talking to our engineers, we've talking water treatment, wastewater treatment planners, and we feel as if from the district of Lillowhead, the best option for us to do would be to really go after $7 million for capital replacement for the recreation centre, and I'll explain that in a second. And then secondly, to go after up to around 750,000 for feasibility for a wastewater treatment plant, and that's quite strategic itself. The reason that we feel that is because there are no other 100% grants out just now. It is a one and done, not one and done, but this is a one-time thing for the provincial government. It's probably going to roll into next year. It's probably going to go on for each year. But the grant application itself for capital, I just don't want to waste our time applying for a water treatment plant or a wastewater treatment plant until we have a 100% defined plan for it. So exactly down to the nuts and bolts, so that it is really shovel ready. It needs to be shovel ready for them to look at. It really needs to be shovel ready. We're not there with the water treatment plant, and I think that we're probably about 60-70% ready for our wastewater treatment plant. So I'd like to go after the 750 for the wastewater treatment plant, the $7 million for the capital infrastructure for this building. We could spend 30 million in this building, so that's justifiable. And we're working with a company just now to kind of go through a kind of sliding scale from 150,000 to $7 million for the upgrades to this building. And that includes fire smarting, it includes new roofs, it includes new flooring, it includes the new gymnasium. There's a lot of money to be spent in that. It's a bit of a kind of kick at the can, because I've spoken to a lot of other municipalities. In fact, all the municipalities that I've spoken to over the last 5 months have told me what they're spending their $7 million on. There's only $100 million available. So the amount of $7 million grants that are going to be given out for this are going to be very, very limited. And the other people are going to be looking at fire halls and new recreation centres and new water treatment plants. So it's going to be a very, very, very limited fund. I can see that this money is only going to be given out to 100% shovel ready, almost tender ready projects in the province. And I don't want to miss the boat with this one. So we're requiring a council resolution for this, and I'm completely open to the conversation on it. But kind of, I've done enough of these grants over the last 10 years to kind of know the way that this could fall for us, and I want to put us in the best position forward.
Through the mayor, reading through this, which was one of the shorter things to read through
I
for
apologize.
this agenda.
It was a lengthy apology, which again, I thank Christina for, because Christina was actually off on holiday and she still submitted it for us.
And I
Thank you.
hate to put, you and a new finance person on the books here, but it says, you pay up front and then submit your invoices. Are we in a very capable way of doing that? And how long does the government take to give us our money back? Or do we know? I mean, it could be anywhere from 30 days to 3 years, I'm assuming,
I
but
know, we would be in a financial position, all grants that we get for work the same. So we'd be okay with that. It wouldn't cause us any problems.
okay. And do we know how quickly these things turn over? Will we get, I don't want to call it a refund, where we get the grant money to cover our expenses?
Yeah, we'd still get it back very quickly. It's not like a 2-year process or anything like that. We'd get the money back on it. So we'd get the money back quickly. No, I wouldn't be worried about it.
Councillor Fun.
Through the mayor, I did notice that the program intake closes on September 12th, so we're all got everything ready to meet that deadline.
Yes, we have. Thank you for the mayor. We've got Urban System has completed our feasibility study. We've worked with them to kind of fine tune it just now. So we've got it to that 90%, 95%. Mike from the Recreation Centre has been working with a private company just now in a pro bono in order to do a full assessment in this building. And that also includes assessments on our pool and assessments on our heating systems, assessments on our ice plant as well. So we've been going through that. We've actually been working behind the scenes on this one for the last kind of month and a half, 2 months. And rather ironically, and I appreciate that Miss Joan LaRue is with us today, online, Joni has just told me and texted me that you would get that back quarterly. So just Darryl was asking earlier on, how are we getting on with Joni? And I said, yeah, Joni's there tonight online. And she said that what Joni said, you usually do an interim quarterly report or so. Other than get the money back, so we would expect that money back. Yeah, that thought. Thank you, Joni.
So that was actually my question. I was gonna piggyback on Councillor Weaves. So we wouldn't put out $7 million at once. We would put out maybe 500,000 and then apply for that back, right? So
Yeah, it
we just don't want
it would be a
anybody
kind of
thinking that we can grab
It would
7
be-
million and.
it would be a kind of drip road.
Or something, you know?
But let's try and get the money first.
Yeah, right.
Step one, whatever.
It's all spent it, so we're good.
It was difficult to try and come up with the full feasibility plans for them all. So
Fun. You're good? Okay. No, okay. Will somebody please move that the District of Lillooet submit a capital infrastructure stream application to the Strategic Priorities Fund for upgrades to the Recreation Center for up to 7 million in eligible funding. And that the District of Lillooet submit a capacity building stream application to the Strategic Priorities Fund to support long-term planning and asset management for the wastewater treatment plant. And further, that staff be directed to prepare and submit the necessary applications prior to the Strategic Priorities Fund deadline. Councillor McMary, Councillor Weave, any further questions? None? All in favor? Very,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, bylaws and resolution, 11.1 zoning bylaw number 2025-026, summary of public engagement revisions and second reading.
I imagine this will be, thank you.
Hi.
I imagine this will be the bulk of what you guys are reading today, your staff report. So thank you, council. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council and mayor. I'm here to present the draft zoning bylaw and to hopefully answer questions through our amazing consultants that are online right now. The purpose of tonight's item is to review the changes that have been made since June 17th, the council meeting, based on public consultation and the external referrals sent out. Staff recommends now to pass the zoning bylaw and have it be read a second time. Engagement was available for a 6-week period, consisting of a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, a public open house, and a survey questionnaire. Furthermore, letters were sent out to various provincial ministries, the SLRD, and 6 neighboring nations. We received feedback from just the SLRD, Interior Health, and the Agricultural Land Commission. And to address the concerns or suggestions expressed by all of this input, staff and Alpine have made edits to the bylaw and the map, as well as a summary of the list of changes to the text and map, which I believe is Appendix 2. There are a few specific bylaws which staff do deem noteworthy to mention since the August 12th, 2025 resolution. The first one is that staff working on preparing the draft new zoning bylaw for a second reading be directed to include paid or designated caretakers living on the property in the proposed residence requirement for short-term rentals. So this was having somebody in there while the short-term rentals are being rented out at the time. Staff note that the rules regarding STRs have been loosened in the bylaw compared to the bylaw currently in force. As per council resolution on August 12, 2025, staff have reworded the definition of an STR operator in such a way that it includes a paid or unpaid person responsible for the operations of the STR while in use. They may be a friend, a paid service, or a cleaner, but they must be listed on the business license when they apply for an STR. Furthermore, staff and Alpine have also investigated the resolution that staff investigate the possibility of adding a cap to the short-term rental use in apartment buildings, such as allowing no more than 1 unit per building to be a short-term rental or 1 short-term rental for every 10 units as an additional measure to protect these long-term rentals. In investigating this idea, further, staff would like to know that the current version of the zoning bylaw, STRs are not permitted in RM residential multifamily zones. Most apartment buildings in town would already not be permitted to have STRs. There are small apartment buildings that exist in other zones where STRs are permitted. So think 999 Fair Street, I believe. Staff agree that issuing a cap on the total number of business licenses issued for STRs in multiplexes is reasonable. The key challenge now is to see how we would allot these licenses. So we have kind of advised 3 approaches to consider. The first one being put a cap per building. So this would limit the number of STRs per multiplex. This would limit this would need council to decide on an allocation method, such as first come, first serve, or a wait list, or an annual lottery, and also to figure out how many we would like to cap per multiplex. The next one would be a flat cap across the district. This would set a maximum number of STRs allowed across all multiplex buildings in Lillooet, such as 100 total licenses. Again, this would require an additional policy decision, such as an aforementioned first come, first serve, or wait list. And the third option was to cap per owner. So this would restrict every property owner to 1 STR license. We would have it verified through a title. This would have the potential, what we think to be the most loopholes, as you can an owner or a corporation or other entities could hold multiple titles and bypass the cap. Out of these options, staff recommends the second approach, a flat cap, as it is the most fair and straightforward and efficient approach. The cap would be added to the business bylaw. And we understand this is a little bit of a loaded option, so we are open to answering further questions after this presentation. In terms of financial implications, the costs associated with this new zoning bylaw and running the public engagement, the operating cost of the zoning bylaw would be minimally different from the old zoning bylaw. So the only real financial implications is in the process of updating and making a new zoning bylaw right now. Staff recommends that council receive the updated draft zoning bylaw for review and then bring the bylaw forward for a second reading and direct staff to make arrangements for a public hearing and a third reading in early autumn 2025. Staff would also like to make note that much of the animal control related sections of this bylaw, while they've been kept in the current zoning bylaw, we would like to see these sections sort of taken out and moved to a separate animal control bylaw. We plan to host a committee of a whole meeting later in September to discuss animal control in greater detail. Now with these, the options that we have would be to move the motion as recommended by staff and instruct staff to plan public hearing and third reading, which would be tentatively between mid and late October, after making any minor or non-substantive changes to the proposed bylaw. Number 2 is to direct staff to make changes to the bylaw with the following motions. that zoning bylaw number 2025-026 be read a second time and the following changes be made to the bylaw ahead of the third reading. Or option 3, to refer to staff for all options. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, we're going to help.
I have a question.
Okay.
Everyone was just looking at it.
We'll
Do we want to
start
go
with
page by page or what?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
let us know what page you're on, for each question that you
It's
might.
really not that many.
But she says, okay,
Or, my first question, it's not really a question, is, and I really like the red line, thank you for that. A few, sections have been removed, so then the numbering is not correct. Is that going to be fixed through, like, after, was that just done so it wasn't too, messy and too cluttered?
It might be, yeah, we might have just completed. Not
Because I can give you a list afterwards if you want.
We would appreciate that. Yeah, please. Thank you.
The 66 for the STR capping, I agree that there should be some sort of capping on there. As to what council would decide on that, but I'm just kind of worried if we don't put a capping on it, we could get the thing where everybody is starting to do a short-term rental, and then suddenly we have more short-term rentals in town than we do for actually long-term rentals. 67, page 67 for animal control, I totally agree with staff that we should maybe move that out of the zoning bylaw and then add it to a new animal bylaw, making it an actual animal bylaw. Also on page 87, 5.5.2.5. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with the parking of recreational vehicles. I think we need some sort of leeway for them to be parked on the street. It's been mentioned to me previously, and then I did notice that somebody did mention something in the surveys that for people that don't have space in their properties to park, especially during camping season, when you're looking from sort of March to October, for them to be able to have it on the street or whatever for packing, unpacking, minor maintenance and that sort of thing. So I don't know how we could maybe arrange that if there is a time when they can, but definitely they should not be on the side of the road during winter for our snow removal and everything else. So I don't know if we can look into that somehow, but not everybody has the property to be able to store and to be able to do that. And a lot of people I know, the real campers, they're camping like every weekend or every long weekend or every second weekend. So to be moving it back and forth, if we could maybe look into somehow of doing that.
I think that's really sure.
I'm just wondering if we should talk about each one of these instead of just having a list and then letting you guys. DAO, thoughts? So really,
Yes, yeah, I think if we go through them one at a time, make sure.
yeah, I think we
I
should.
had a question on it, just as well, and we're trying to kind of get through some different checks here. Are we, hi Thomas, hi James, quick question in relation to camping. Legally, are we allowed to cap upper and lower levels? We can't do that for certain things, but is that legally permissible? Be able to do that?
Through the mayor, I'm not sure I understand your question. Upper and lower levels of camping, is that what you said there?
For short-term rentals?
Oh, for short-term rental.
We are allowed to put an actual physical number to either the talker level, because I know we can't do that for certain things. But I wasn't
Yes.
sure. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
through the mayor, there's actually examples of municipalities that have gone very granular and actually capped the amount of short-term rentals per owner even. So that's how it's my understanding that that's how Vancouver is going about this.
It was a side question, she said, I'm thinking, as long as legally we should do that.
So my question with the capping, is it better to cap each property, like each apartment building, or do a straight across? or to do the entire town, we are allowed, I don't know, 50 Airbnbs or whatever rentals, what is the recommendation for the most popular?
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Mayor. So staff, we did discuss this, and the simplest method is to put a flat cap on the total amount of business licenses issued for short-term rentals, specifically for multiplexes. So currently, we're only discussing putting a cap on short-term rentals within multiplexes. And initially, the proposal is to leave short-term rental, the total number of short-term rentals within single-family and duplexes unregulated. So that's the current proposal. Of course, we're willing to make changes if desired.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McNary?
My idea on that is, the single family dwellings that want a short-term rental should be open, but limited to one per owner. You know what I mean?
I do. So if I was to do that in my house, I could only do it one
You
Airbnb.
couldn't buy another house and do it again.
Oh, couldn't buy another house. I thought you meant I couldn't have Airbnbs within my house.
I never thought about that program, but if you own two houses, you can only do it in one house. Like put a cap on it per owner. And then you don't have a conglomerate guy capping all the Airbnbs.
Through the mayor, if I may add a point here to the councillor's remark. I understand this idea. The issue is that many people who own multiple properties oftentimes don't have the house, their name isn't on the title. They often have these houses on a corporation, a limited liability company that they own, or a holding company. And that way it's hard for staff to track who owns this. So it would involve more costs in enforcing it, but it is possible, as mentioned before.
Any further discussion on Airbnbs? Okay. The numbering, yeah, that'll, I think has numbering, what was, animal control will go into a bylaw.
And then parking RVs on the street. And when I'm saying parking during a certain amount of time, that is making it that it is an unoccupied licensed RV that is on the street, just for that certain amount of time that people are packing and unpacking to go camping. So it wouldn't be, you couldn't have your company living on the street in your RV for a couple of weeks.
Short-term parking.
Yeah, just for a certain amount of time. There are many people who do have RVs who are storing them in other places and just for the convenience. And there are quite a few hardcore campers around here who are out in the summertime every weekend or every second weekend.
I have no problem when people like parking in front of their homestead, especially to unload and
Yeah.
load.
Is that the intention, guys? Is that what we have in there?
Is it, through the mayor, is this a question directed at myself?
Yes, yeah.
Sorry about that. I wasn't sure. I heard a bit of a silence, but yeah, no, the intention now it's listed under this section, uses prohibited in all zones. So right now it is forbidden to park your RV on street. However, as CAO has alluded to last meeting, short loading and unloading it's not the intention that a city inspector ticket somebody who's unloading or loading a RV, even if it's for 1 or 2 days. It's a general prohibition for a longer period of time. Yes, that's that.
Okay. Councilor Reeve? Through the mayor.
I'm confused here because I'm thinking, I'm not sure if Counselor Glenn is thinking a day or two, or she's thinking the whole week before they go camping again on Friday night or Saturday morning. So I'm just trying to get that straight in my head.
What time frame are you looking at?
As I said, I'm thinking more of a larger time frame. I know for ourselves, we have an RV. We luckily have space that we can park it. When we are going, I'm spending the week before putting this in, that, doing food, doing everything else in amongst everything else. That's just me, myself, because I'm OCD. But I do know, there are some people up on the heights who there is absolutely no place for them to park their RVs. So having a kind of half in their driveway or whatever, and they're doing the same thing, they're camping every second weekend or something. So then for them to take their camper, park it across the river, and then having for the convenience of our homeowners as well. But then stipulating that it has to be unoccupied as well and licensed, because as the bylaw is right now, it's totally prohibited to be able to park it there.
Yeah, through the mayor, we'd be willing to adjust the wording in a way which would be slightly more permissive, and we're open to any suggestion in terms of what time frame that would be sufficient, 7 days or 10 days or what have you.
Some sort of leeway there.
Thanks. I like the language that we have in it just now. I completely respect the councillor's saying. I think it's all in the interpretation as well, and I think that you always hear me talking about the intent of the bylaw, and the intent of the bylaw is if somebody's got an RV and they're living in it and it's outside their house and they're Airbnb in it and it's been sitting there for 3 months, that's not the intent of the bylaw. I think if we have the kind of stringency that we require in the bylaw in order for us to go and deal with complaints, people will weed that out pretty quick, and I think the intention is that if you're loading up your RV in order to take it away, or if you're out, especially this time of year when people are fishing and they're taking their RVs away, they're bringing them back on the Friday night, late Friday night, they're unloading it, they're loading it back up on the Monday and disappearing again. Within the intent, unless there's no complaints, I don't think there's a problem with that. If we are getting complaints, the bylaw will allow us to address that. So maybe a slight modification in the language on it, Thomas and James, but I kind of like the intent of what we have in it, in the bylaw itself just now. I know it doesn't necessarily permit it, doesn't allow it completely free reign, but I think you're right. If it's licensed, if it's registered, it's there, and you're loading and you're unloading. If you can prove that you're heading back out within reasonable times, I think it's good. I think when we start putting in 7 days or 10 days, it gives people an excuse to say that they'll wait that length of time before they start doing it. I think complaints kind of self-regulate that one in piece as well. So I kind of like the language that's in it just now. It's a wee bit. I think it helps bylaw, and I think that our intent would be: are you unloading and reloading it? Is it still registered? Is it still insured? Are you heading back out in the next couple of days? Yeah, right, okay, that's reasonable. If we're not getting a whole load of complaints about that, that's reasonable to kind of assume. But if somebody's got an RV at the side of the road, it's unregistered, it's unlicensed, it's up on blocks, the wheels off it, and it's been sitting there for 3 weeks, you're not getting back out on it. So I kind of like the language we're going there just now, personally speaking.
No, I'm good with that, but a little bit of leeway there. These are conversations to bring forward that people have said, so I brought it forward.
It's a good stipulation.
I have one on just, I need some clarification on this, page 44 of 127 or 112 of 214. And it is to do with the charging stations again, and it says, so provisions of electric charging infrastructure and loading space requirements, I think, so when we talk about all other non-residential land uses, 10% of the total. So does that mean like empty spaces, or if it's non-residential land, then is that, what is that? And 10%, is that like every 10 places? So if we have 10 empty lots that are commercial properties, say, and no, like we wouldn't have, why 10%? I don't understand that.
Comments, any
Thomas?
comments?
Yes, absolutely. Through the mayor. The 10% was chosen as we refined this bylaw. I couldn't specify exactly why 10%, but we think it's a reasonable place to start, let's say, for charging infrastructure.
Not non-residential land uses.
Yes.
What is,
So any land use that's not residential, so it could be commercial, it could be industrial, it could be institutional. So for example, a theater, what have you, anything non-residential.
okay. So let's take the hospital. It's got how many parking spaces? It has no charging stations. Would that mean that 10% of the parking spots should have charging stations?
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. So it would mean that 10% of the hospital, of a new hospital would need to have access to a 240 volt outlet. So that's the only requirement. There doesn't need to be anything else in place other than the wiring and the outlet 240 volts. And this only applies to new construction. So it's not going to, an existing structure wouldn't need to be adapted after the implementation of this bylaw.
Councilor McNary.
So you're saying like if you have an empty lot and you want to build something on it, and you have parking spots, like 4 parking spots on your lot for customers, you need to put in a charging system for them?
So if you're, through the mayor, if you're constructing on your empty lot, if you happen to be constructing a residential unit and it has 4 off-street parking spaces, 2 of those need to be within reach of a 240 volt outlet. If you're constructing a non-residential building, so I think you mentioned, store, for example, then the non-residential limit would apply, which would be 10%. And of course, 10% of 4 units is not 1. So that means that, James, can I defer to you on this one? Would we round up to 1 or are we rounding down to 0?
Through the mayor, yes, it would be rounding up to 1. You need to provide at least 1 spot in that situation.
Thank you, James, for that addition.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I feel kind of weird about that too. And residential, so every 50% of the residential has to have the 240 outlet available.
Okay.
That's correct.
Through the mayor, can I ask where this kind of is generally, where was our thought process in this? Where did it generate? Does it come from the potential for the changes in the BC building code, guys? Is that where that's coming from, or is this just within our own kind of purview to look at?
Yeah, through the mayor. So yeah, this was put in there previously before I became involved. We did confirm that there is no requirement in the BC building code that requires this. So it's up to council deliberation.
I make a motion to scrap it,
Scrap the whole,
the whole electric thing. It's like putting a gas station on your own property. I don't think it's right. Sorry.
So, through the mayor, maybe we can get into a kind of a good conversation with this as well. So if we're looking at building, for example, a new hotel, I think it would be appropriate to try and get things in place like that for a new hotel. People that are coming to town that are traveling a fair wee bit would look at that. So when we say scrap it, we're looking at is there selective ones that we could look at that we can maybe try and ring? You know, fence around a little bit to protect, to try and get electric vehicle charging stations on them? Is there ones that would be palatable to council, or is there ones that we could look at within our own zoning guys that you guys could suggest that we could look at, or where do we at?
The mayor. My thoughts on it are, we could have a look at it. But I wouldn't be I wouldn't be in favor of, this bylaw at all. Until we can figure something out other than forcing people to put gas stations on their own property. And that's the problem I have.
So Thomas, can I ask too, while we're on this, accessible parking spaces? So we have lots of accessible parking spaces. So if we were to, I don't know, create a subdivision and there was a little road there and they would have accessible parking spaces, would that mean that 100% of those spaces would also need that 240 volt?
So through the mayor, this applies to, sorry, just to clarify, are you referring to parking spaces on the public road or on individual lots?
I'm referring to like the table 8.7, it says accessible parking spaces. What are we referring to?
So to clarify, so that's referring to parking spaces on to be constructed buildings, because everything that's already constructed, as I mentioned before, is already excluded. So as you can see in 8.3.12, so it means any mandatory accessible parking space, handicapped parking space.
Okay, yeah, I have a bit of a, that's 100%, like I don't know, I understand the tourist accommodation, like for hotels, I understand for, you know, restaurants and new restaurants being built to have a 10% or, you know, but.
Yes, so through the mayor, the kind of the rationale behind putting it at 100% is because if you could picture like a shopping center, for example, they might have, you know, 15 spots that are required for off-street parking, and you know, only 2 of those might be handicap parking spaces. So therefore, the rationale is because there are so few, and they're often located closest to the building, so they're the easiest to upgrade to have access to a 240 volt outlet. That's why we put it at 100, so that even people that have no other option but to use that spot can recharge their car if they have one.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not required in the building code. Why are we making it more expensive to build houses in our town?
Is that a question to me, or is that a question to our
That's a question.
CEO or to Thomas? Okay,
That's what way I'm thinking.
you're thinking that we're creating more red tape than we,
The 100%.
did you have a question?
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Through the mayor. It's not really a question. I'm not in favor of it being residential. I think when you build your home, you should have that option. And if it's not in the building code, it's not in the building code. And if someone buys the house and wants to put one in, so be it. As far as hotels and things like that, I can see them having 1 or 2 spots just for the electric vehicles. But I'm not like this percentage thing is a little over the top for this small town, I think. I don't know. I mean, they've got charging stations down at, where do they have 2 down at the Bilo? 2 down at the Bilo. I know Manny's has 1 or 2, and I'm certain.
Esso has one.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know, I can see it if it's a hotel, just because anyone who has an electric vehicle is going to be looking for that specifically if they're going to rent a room or if they're on vacation or whatever. So I get that part. But as far as Residential, I'm kind of definite no.
I agree, and I think that too with the businesses and the commercial, if the business is gonna build a business, they would want to put that in to attract their customers. Councillor Fun.
Through the mayor, I'm agreeing, I do not like the percentage for residential use for a new build. It should be up to the person who is building their house, whether they want to either install one or have sort of the wiring that it could be added to at a later date there. And 100% total is, yeah, I do not like that at all.
Okay, so again, Thomas, can you tell me about the accessible parking spaces? I kind of got a block with this. I'm not understanding. So if we were to create a subdivision and say we had a new street and it was called the Council Street, and there was, 6 parking spots along that new street, would those parking spots all require that 240 connection? Is that what we're saying?
So to clarify, Madam Mayor, if you're going in your scenario that you're sketching, going to construct a residential subdivision with single family homes, duplexes, etc., the 10% rule would apply, which means that just the off-street parking, so we're only talking about the off-street parking in this situation, would require, so 10%. So that would round up to 1 per home, would need to be within reach of a 240 volt.
Okay. Councilor A. A big smile.
I think I'm just gonna bite my tongue on this one.
Okay.
The way of the future.
Councilor McNary.
And if we kind of go ahead with this, I would rather round down than up. I'm not in favor of it.
I'm thinking that we're all liking the tourist accommodation, because I think that's 20% of the parking space. It seems fair, but we're not really liking the rest. Yeah.
Hey, Thomas, James, do you guys have is there anything else that we're kind of missing here? Any other sort of major pros and cons or really positive action that we're going to see if we completely admit this? I mean, we know that we're not Kelowna, we know we're not downtown Vancouver. Is there anything that we're missing here for long-term planning or infrastructure projects that we're potentially missing out? Don't do that at this time, is there any reason that we absolutely need to from an engineer or a planning standpoint that you guys really need to see this in place, or is that something we can take away and maybe have any change? Because we always seem to come across the same hurdles when we come into zoning. It's always the same thing. It's fences, it's the height of cedar hedges, it's electric vehicles, it's our RVs and our toys. It's always bounces around those kind of topics. And specifically with this, is there anything in this that we're kind of missing, or is this something we can try and loosen back up on, or is there something that we're missing on this? It's maybe just to James and Thomas.
Through your worship, the challenge for engineering infrastructure is whether we prepare for the future. And I am a development consultant. I'm almost always advocating for lower cost, lower bureaucracy, lower red tape. My challenge on this issue in particular is that the cost of providing access to an outlet is remarkably low. And the opportunity if electric vehicles become desirable, when chargers become in demand, when this infrastructure needs to grow, if we provide for it now, we can easily accommodate it in the future. By not accommodating it for a now, it makes it very, very difficult to retrofit, transition, and upgrade later. And so respectfully, through your worship, our recommendation is based on the premise of get prepared and at least have the infrastructure in place in the event that this is an investment that people want to make in the community 5, 10, 15 years from now. But respectfully, you're right. If we'd like to trim a bit of the cost. It can be reduced now. It just is 3 or 4 times more expensive to do it later.
I know I'm brand new, but if I can just give my.
Absolutely.
I think, James, I think he kind of contradicted himself in the sense that as electric vehicles and stuff, it's kind of future orientated, so he's saying get the infrastructure in place now, but he's also saying, the picture might change 5-10 years from now. We may be shooting ourselves in the foot, cost overruns by trying to be ready for 5 years, like to get ready today for what's gonna happen in 5 to 10 years. And in 5 to 10 years, the situation may have changed, because like you've invested and the whole situation has changed.
Councillor Weeb, and then Councillor McMurray. Through the mayor, question for our CAO. If we, like I say, I'm not in favor of the residential part at all. The other parts, if someone's building an apartment complex or a big shopping center or whatever, can they apply for a variance to change the number of spaces if necessary, or? And is that another cost to them?
Yeah, through the mayor, I mean, if they're going to, if they're making an application, they can always ask for variances, and we can always modify what we're doing with these things whenever we can. There's a slight charge to the variance, you can back through and do the permanent stuff, but yeah, there's a small charge to it. And I'm kind of listening to the rest of the conversation, the conversation is good, and I hear what, as always, what Darryl's saying, kind of coming in here, again, respecting what James was saying there as well, and it is new infrastructure that is there, and, James is right as well, Darryl's right, it could change in 20 years' time, and, we're not using cables anymore, we're wirelessly charging our cars. Who knows? I mean, I'm joking about that, but, if we'd all talked about Bluetooth and wireless phones 20 years ago, people would have thought we were crazy. I mean, there's always upgrades to infrastructure. And I was almost going to kind of make a suggestion about putting in conduits rather than just doing these other things. But conduits and challenges, you get issues with that because the standard might be different and then we're not built into that. We're putting money in the ground with it. I appreciate the fact that I know that it doesn't sit great with council, but I still applaud the fact that our planners are still pushing the boundaries with this, and I really appreciate the hard work that they're putting in. These guys don't come at this lightly, and they're trying to come up with the best bylaws that we possibly can to future-proof our community, and I always respect their position with it, although I know it doesn't sit well with council. I respect the fact that they keep coming back and pushing this, and that's commendable from that. See, Thomas, his hand is up as well.
Yeah, if I may, through the mayor, just add one small thing to this discussion, which is the results of the public questionnaire, which was put out for the 6-week period. So we had 50 respondents, and to the question 16, which was asking persons what they think of the proposal to require new homes to have 50% of their required parking spaces to have access to level 2 charging. And then to that question, the people had the option to either select yes, no, or other, and it was about a 50-50 split. So 24 people said yes, 22 people said no, and 3 people said other. And of the people that said other, it was one person said no, 240 outlets not necessary, and 2 other people said they're not sure how to answer this question. So a 50-50 right down the middle, even though it's only a 50 respondents, it does say something. So
through the mayor as well. I was just given this piece of information on for the OCP on section 4.4. One of the policies for transportation states facilitate ownership and use of electric vehicles EV by increasing the number of EV charging stations within the district and increase signage for them. So it's a part of the policies as well from the OCP that direct us that we need to see some sort of addition of EV charging stations as well.
It's
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I didn't understand what you said.
As part of the official community plan, one of the policies for transportation is to facilitate ownership and use of electric vehicles by increasing the number of EV charging stations within the district and increase signage for them. From what I understand about this for the OCP, I think the idea for this zoning bylaw was to sort of like continue from the OCP to say that we need to find a way of including more EV charging stations.
And that's from the government?
Oh, that we, yes, from the local level, yes, from our level, yes.
Chapter one.
Through the mayor. I do agree that we do need to do some more with EV charging stations. I am against the residential uses. I think it should be totally up to the person building their house as to whether they want to incorporate it. Tourist accommodations, yes, they have to have EV charging. We see so many EVs driving through town. The accessible parking, though, I think the 100% is excessive, and I think we need to pare that down. But the tourist and non-residential, I'm fine with those percentages. It's just the residential and the accessible parking that I think is just too high.
Okay, now, Councillor Rubin. Through the mayor, that just flew a thought through my head as Councillor Flynn was speaking. So how would that work if we take it out of the residential? I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that yet. I'm the one who said it at the beginning, but now I'm not sure, because if somebody's doing a subdivision and building 10 or 12 homes that they are going to sell, should they be obligated to have it for EV charging or not? Like that part, I'm thinking, like I'm fully for an individual building a house, do what you want. But if it's someone doing a subdivision or whatever and building, like I say, 6, 10, 12 homes and going to resell them, I feel a little bit different about that. That maybe we should be thinking about the future when it comes to something like that. As far as our mayor building a home or me building a home, I don't think we should have to do that, but
Watching my question.
if Council McNary is building 12 homes and going to advertise them for an exorbitant amount of money for sale, I think that maybe he should think about that, at least in a part of them. So maybe that variance thing would come into play there. Just.
Another thing is with the small business, you're gonna supply a charging system. If you start it, like if somebody wants to come in and start a small business in town, and you're gonna supply a charging station for them. What are you gonna have a gas attendant to monitor it, or you just give them the electricity, or how does that work? Like, it's not a line yet.
My question is it, so I have a home and I have 1, 2, 3, at least 3 parking spaces. Is it percentage of parking required, like in my park, 50% of the parking, say I had 4 parking spaces. Does that mean that 2 have to be, or is it just 50% of, like every second home has to have a, how does that work?
So, Madam Mayor, if you're referring to your own home, I'm assuming you live in just a regular single-family home. It's measured based on your own parcel, your own lot, rounded up. So the half of, in this case, you said 4 spots, so you would say, well, 2 have to be within reach. So it would be the 2 spots right in front of your garage, for example. That's where logically the 240 volt plug would go. So in a new build construction, it's really a matter of just putting in the wiring. So that's why we're also not mandating it for existing homes, because the costs are much higher. When you have an existing home, the costs of retrofitting it are more significant, because you have to take out either siding or drywall on the inside of your home, etc. So.
Okay, so again, and I don't know anything about 240 volts. Is that one, would there be 2 separate plugins then?
It's similar to your, sorry, Madam Mayor, it's similar to your washing machine.
Okay,
Yes,
but I would only need, but I would only need one for, well, if I had 4 spots, I would need 2 then,
Just to be
That's correct.
accessible, but
just to be accessible. Wow.
plug-in has to reach that plug, so I get
The plug-in has to reach that plug,
from those 2 spots.
but you would need 2 plugins.
Right.
For 4 parking spots, I would need 2 plugins, because that's 50% of the total,
That's good.
right? Yes,
Yes.
okay.
Through the mayor, and just my understanding was that those 2 parking spots just had to reach the 1 plug. Is that correct?
Thomas?
yes. So
Okay.
it has to be within a reasonable length, which is like the length of, I'm sure you've seen a Tesla, like a charging cable, right? So it's 2 or 3 meters approximately, right? Something like that.
Okay,
But 1 plug.
so 1 plug-in, okay, all right. That's a fun thing.
There, now, is it actual plugins or just the wiring? Because from what I understand, different EVs have different plug-in requirements, do they not?
Yes, so through the mayor, it's the way we've worded it in the bylaw right now is it only prescribes a 240 volt outlet. So I can actually read it to you right now. So a level 2 charging capability, it means a 240 volt wall outlet, which allows current or future installation of a charging station. So what you're referring to, yes, there are different types of EVs have different plugs. There's a North American standard, which almost all car companies use, General Motors, etc. And then there's Tesla. Those are the 2 main ones in North America. So that is basically the interface that you would put into your 240 volt wall outlet. So there would be, so if you're at a gas station, you might have seen a charging unit where the payment is done and there's a display and it shows the time it takes to charge, etc. That's not being mandated. It's purely and simply the 240 volt plug, which, like I said, is similar to the large plug that you would find in your laundry room.
Through the mayor. I'm getting that we have to be looking forward, like looking forward to what's to come. So residential uses, would it be better to change it that a minimum of 1 station and then residential, then as Councillor Weed said, if a person was really against putting in a charging station, they could apply for a variance. But the 50%, like as I said, as the mayor said, if you've got 4 spots, you have to put in 2. I don't like that.
Councilor McNary.
Another question, what's the average rating on these plugins? Because that'll cost more money for your box. You need to go to a 300 amp service box now, or what's that program?
So through the mayor, I'm not sure what the implications are for that. James, do you have any indication?
Through your worship, my property had an upgraded box. It cost me a couple $100. It was not a significant investment, but every dollar counts. I respect that.
To you, through the mayor. Now, you say a couple $100 for the box. Now, who does all the wiring and the rest of it to get it all in there? It like if you go to a higher average box, and then how did that work for you in the rest of the program? Like when you were building a new house, you put a bigger box in?
Yes, through your worship, we knew that we needed this electrical service. The electrician took care of the wiring and the plugs, and much like having an extra dishwasher or a laundry facility, it was simply adding an extra plug. So no, in a new build, it was not consequential in the overall cost.
So I have another question. Sorry, I will. So my question is, Are other communities doing this? Because it's not by the BC building code. We don't have to have this. BC says you don't have to have this. However, we as the district are saying, we're going to put this, on new builds. Are other communities doing this as well?
Yes, yes, Madam Mayor, it is becoming, I would consider, go out on limb and say it's more or less standard practice. Yeah, it's becoming more and more common.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Joe and then, sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's a good question as well. It's maybe it's the percentages that are thrown us off. And again, I'm just kind of circling back round. And in our official community plan, it was discussed that we wanted to try and increase it. That's the reason it's back at the table for it. Maybe the percentages and stuff are thrown out, but I just want to kind of draw council's kind of glaze over the fact that when we don't ask new homeowners to put these things in 5, 10, 20 years time down the line, people are having to update things, they're having to bring them back in, and it's caused them additional problems. You can see that kind of coming around. So maybe it's some of the 50%, 20% numbers that are kind of throwing it off on this, but it works the same way as having new builds, having back check valves on them, or meter pits on them, or radon gas meters in them. When you're purchasing a house and you're building a house, it's cheaper and more efficient to put them in at the time. We're not getting somebody to put in a Tesla charger at their house. It's just a cable for these things. And I think maybe we need to look at some of the kind of facts and figures, or maybe we need to look at some of the figures that we've got and some of the percentages in this. And I think that's a fairly easy thing to do, James. Thomas, what do you think?
Sure.
From what we're taking away from council tonight?
Yeah.
Absolutely easy to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ken.
To the mayor, I felt just done by my tongue for a little bit. Yeah, it's been an interesting conversation, really, like I'm all about green vehicles, but who knows what the future's gonna bring, so we put all this infrastructure in and maybe it's not required and
Or the industry goes an unexpected direction, like
yeah, that's exactly it. At this point in time,
you plan for A and then B materializes.
yeah, the government is sort of pushing us, like, it's, I'm not sure what year, every vehicle that's gonna be produced is gonna be an electric car, so then what do we do if we don't have enough charging stations, right? And I can see the residential thing, but anybody that's done any kind of renovation knows that it's way harder to put something in afterwards. And I'm curious there, Joe, do you know, like, any of the new construction that's being done, are they putting charging stations in, or do you?
know that, yeah.
That?
Yeah, new man, the new buildings. I know all over the UK and all over Europe, it's part of course in a lot of the new leads, gold and silver certified buildings. And I know that it has been discussed as well, as Zara and I talked about it previously, about the implementation of some of these new cables and ports and stuff that are getting put in. As far as I know, that's one of the requirements. It's coming.
I'm just thinking locally there, like some really builds have been done, could they put the charging stations, or even know?
Trying to think if there's anyone, yeah, I mean, it's the new.
Through the mayor, yes. Like our current zoning bylaw does require if you spot here, I think it's if you require more than 10 spots, something you're supposed to have an outlet. So like Manny's Corner, they actually went above and beyond and they put in like the flow level 2 charging stations. And like the 341 main, the kind of one that was boarded up for a while, now it's all white, it looks nice, they put in outlets. So because it's already a requirement, yes, like the new zoning bylaw draft sort of leveling up that requirement, but it has been a requirement for the last 8 years or so, and it has like, the current zoning bylaw doesn't apply to like single family homes, so it's just been like multifamily or commercial developments, but people have been putting in outlets.
I certainly know that a lot of the friends I've got quite a few times in Saminar, Sycamus and Kelowna and Vernon, that are home builders. And they say it's almost an 80% uptake on when you're talking about building a house. So almost 80% of people are asking for it to be included in their new build. Just purely because when they're selling their house, they can say that it's ready for just a whole other component.
Councilor McNair?
Okay, now. If you're a small business person and you pull a building permit out to renovate your building and whatnot, does that mean that you have to put in a plug also?
The mayor, it's a great question. Thomas, would you be able to answer that?
Yes, so to answer the councillor's question, if you're requesting a building permit for a new build, you will need to build the required plugs. That's correct, yeah.
What about if you have an old building that you're revamping inside that you need a building permit for? Do you need to upgrade your electrical to supply an outlet?
I'm just gonna look this one up.
Through the mayor, my understanding is that if you're not increasing the footprint of your building, then no, like there's no additional parking upgrade requirements. But if you are building like another wing to your business, then it's like a, well, change of use or expansion of use, I should say, where the parking requirements would kick in. So, I mean, if your floor area is bigger, your parking requirements are greater, you may need to update your parking. Again, you always have the option to apply for a variance to ask council to not meet current requirements. But yeah, it only applies to expansion of floor area, I believe, but I'm also kind of put on the spot here, so we could bring back a more fulsome report and get more time to get into all the details.
So
Yeah,
through the mayor, I've had time just to pull it up. So the way it's worded right now, under 8.3.12, it says the requirements under section 8.4.2, so that's referring to everything about the EV, shall not apply to existing or new parking spaces for existing non-residential uses. So it's worded quite broadly. So the way this is worded, I would by no means consider a renovation, even a very large renovation, to constitute the addition of a new non-residential or existing non-residential use. So, yeah, no, renovation would not fall within this requirement.
Okay, so I'm not sure where council is with all of this. I feel like we are thinking about leaving them in, but we don't like the percentages. And we need to maybe lower those percentages and round down instead of is that, or does anybody want to actually remove one of these? Or can we fiddle around with the percentages? Councilor Wood?
Through the mayor, I don't know how we would go about it, but if it's an individual residence, I would like to remove it. If it's a development of a few residences, then I would just like the percentages different. Does that make sense? Like if it's an individual, but if it's a development, a housing development, I think that possibly the wiring should be put in, and it makes sense that you do it before, while you're building. It would be cheaper than going back and doing it later. So I get that part, but if it's an individual residence, I don't think it should be there.
And if it's a residential and there's only one parking spot, does that, we round up there too? So it would need it, right? Is that how I read it? Yes?
Yep.
Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So we would round up and they would need it if we were just building one house. Okay. Huh. Councilor McNary.
I think we should scrap the whole thing and figure it out, and can we put it into the bylaw later?
On residential, can we do that, or can we make it a recommendation? Or is that not really? I mean, these are for bylaws and not really for recommendations, but
I mean, the government isn't even sure because they're not mandating it. Why should we?
So, okay, so I think for what we're hearing, I think we definitely need to kind of wordsmith some of the stuff that we've got coming in here. I think we kind of hear what council are saying. I think we kind of, we understand what council's ideas are from the rounding down, rounding up percentiles, 150, the 100%, the 50%, where we need to be with that. I think we can make those modifications. I don't really want to make those modifications right here, right now. I don't think we need to do that. I think staff need to go away, have a quick look at that, maybe make the changes, make modifications. But at second reading, I think that the rest of the information, we've still got some more questions to get through on this. Let's maybe move forward a little bit. I think staff have heard this. We will not be approving that section, but we will, we'll take that away under kind of consult. We'll make some modifications and changes to that. That's fine. I mean, we're not going to, let's keep moving forward with it. I think we hear what councillors saying. Thomas, Yvonne, you guys.
I'm agreeing with this as well. Yes, if we can move forward with this, there's a few things that we could probably change. A few other bylaws maybe we could put this into. So we'll investigate a little further from the EV, especially for subdivisions.
We can take a little look at that.
A deep dive there.
Take that away. And again, remember, and through the mayor, this is important to get. What we're trying to do with this zoning bylaw is we're trying to get it close. Okay, this is not the document to die on. This is the document that we're trying to get close to. So what we want to try and do with this zoning bylaw is get it close, really close. We want to get it close. Okay, that's the idea of it. We can, even if we were to approve this today and tonight and finalize it, we can be back here next week having this discussion and then make an amendment, change it again. So remember, we can go through that process. We do need to go through a lengthy process to do that, but we can do that. Okay, so just note that we can do this thing as well. So we'll take it away and we'll have a look at it. We'll bring it back.
But for now, we can move forward with the second reading.
Move forward to the second reading in this section. I think we have some more questions anyways.
Councillor Plan. Oh, Councillor Reagan, go ahead.
Councilor Blanton's first.
No, you go ahead.
Sure, hers will be longer.
Just one more thing, man. It's been a quick Google search on the cost that we're talking about for this outlet. It says it ranges from like $750 to $2,500. So if you put that in the grand scheme of a house, like it's pretty small. That's just one more thing to think about. I think because if you go to put it in afterwards, it's significantly more, I can imagine.
I had a couple of questions, but I'm gonna get rid of them just because I can ask about them later. There's nothing there. I was a little disappointed to see that the fencing height requirement stayed at 6 feet. I still kind of feel that a 6-foot fence with a near 4-foot invisible fence on the top is a hazard to deer and the wildlife there. An 8-foot fence, as far as I can understand, doesn't need any engineering or anything like that. So I would like to see, like, there are people, and reading the survey, some people were like, yes, solid 8-foot fence. Others were like, oh, 6 feet is too tall because I want to talk to my neighbors. I do feel that anything up to 8 foot should be at the discretion of the property owner. But that's just my little bit there, just to see that. And then looking at the survey numbers, when you did look at the one graph there, it was actually when you go for the amount of percentage that wanted 6 feet, and then you add all the percentages for 6 feet up to 10 feet. It actually comes out that people were wanting over 6-foot fences. There were 2 from the survey. I don't know what else I want to say there. I'm just disappointed that it is still at 6 feet, and that people do not have the option to go a little bit higher depending on their needs, and especially not everybody likes their neighbors, and other people love their neighbors.
Yeah, that's a question. Then can we put this is more Thomas and James again. Can we put something in there that says the 6 foot or if somebody wants to come back and ask for an additional 2 foot, that needs to be done through consultation with our neighbours and the district. Is there something that we can put in that gives us a little bit more flexibility that, you know, if it's done, or the fear I can't say all staff's fear, my fear is that people put up 8 foot fences for spite. That's always the kind of concern with it. But is there something that we can do to kind of add in that through, you know, through a specific variance or an allowance that we can put an additional 2 feet on top of that? You seen that done before anywhere, James?
Through your worship, absolutely, yes. In a lot of municipalities, they offer staff the discretion to vary that and allow that in certain circumstances. It's a very powerful tool. It is respectfully that goal that council wants to allow up to 8 makes perfect sense. And in fact, that might be the default. I think what I'm trying to share is that there are certain circumstances where over height is not acceptable. If you look at a typical residential street, if you look at a typical Lillooet Road, if you have 8 foot fences on the property line on both sides and you are merely driving down a flanked corridor, that's what we're trying to avoid. And so absolutely, yes, in the workshop we talked about, but if it's offset and if it's set back, extra height is acceptable. If it's 6 foot solid with extra height deer fencing, that's acceptable. And so the easiest path is if staff are allowed to, or authorized to make that variance. And the other alternative is we recommend people apply for variance with neighbor support.
Thanks, James. Does that help? We could maybe make that modification, maybe ask to have that additional modification then. As you know.
Did you 8 foot solid or 6 foot solid with like 2 feet lattice?
8 foot solid,
8 foot.
it would be 6 foot lattice, or, but that's still, a lattice is still considered kind of like your invisible fencing there as well, which is more preferable when you're looking at wildlife. But most people, if they're doing the adding to their fence for their deer or whatever, they're just putting a bit of wire up or something like that, which is not deer safe. And I know we've got too many deer, and depending on who you talk to as to whether they want to be feeding apples, which I've seen people eating apples on their front lawn for them to eat, or whether they're shooting them with paintball guns.
Yeah, I've heard about people. No, I think if staff can have that discretion, we can look at sightlines, we can look at health and safety, we can look at our own discretion. We have the neighbours on board with it. I think these are easy wins for us. I think that's an easy thing to try and do. Like I said, we're always on the same thing. Electric vehicles, RVs, fences. We're always going to be on these, but allow staff the opportunity and discretion to work with the neighbours, because you may find that you may want an 8 foot fence, but it's bothering, and your neighbour turns around and says, look, I really don't want that. And then they come back, and then we don't want to be involved in the conflicts between neighbours. So then the municipality can be the bad guy and turn around and say, not in this area, where we don't need to turn around and say your neighbour doesn't want it. We can just turn around and say, in this area, we've got sightlines, we've got other issues, we've got other considerations to look at with it. So we can be the bad guy in that, or we can be the good one and kind of deviate that kind of thing. But yeah, up to 8 foot with staff.
I like that.
Up to.
So they the 4 feet of tunnel. My next one is page 107 for the mention for buffer zones for planting of trees. It mentions in there that planting of trees should be 1.8 meters, etc. And then it also goes down to another section. I would like to put forward that if we can add that the trees and shrubs that are planted have to be fire smart. So they can't be like cedars or junipers or any of the trees and hedges that take off really, really quickly due to a fire.
Okay.
That would also, there's another section a little bit further down that also mentions about potted trees and things like that too. I think we should be adding about fire smart vegetation in there. And I've got some more. Page 125, I noticed that throughout the different zones, it was probably, we've added, community care for no more than 10 persons, not more than 6 who are persons in care. We added that to about 9, I think, different, sections there.
Sorry,
I'm starting at page 125
214.
of 214, yeah. Yeah, so in
Okay.
about 9 zones, we've now added community care for more than 10 persons, not more than 6 of whom are persons in care. We've added that. My concern is that, just for the mention of community care, where a care facility, that it could be interpreted as well as recovery homes or transition homes. I did do a little bit of reading, and a few other municipalities have actually separated those for community cares and added recovery homes and transition housing. Depending on the care, from what I understand, a community cares facility is mostly for seniors or like dementia or infirmed and that. But depending on the person's medical treatment, it could actually include for drug recovery and that as well. I think we need to sort of have a little bit of to be able to control what sort of housing is handed out there. But there are a couple of other municipalities who have actually separated that and put in definitions as to if there is licensing needed or how many people and that. So I would like that looked into, just so that there isn't that case of community cares could be turned into transition or recovery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thomas, do you have any thoughts on that with the definition of what we're looking for there, just to get some kind of restraints or some control measures in place?
Yeah, through the mayor. I have indeed I have the definition open in front of me for community care facility that I believe the councillor is referring to. And yeah, it does seem to be worded in a way. So the way it's worded right now is a community care facility means premises for the accommodation and care of persons who require continuing assistance due to age, medical infirmity, or disability, and must be licensed under the Community Care and Assisted Living Act, as amended or replaced from time to time. So indeed, I'm not sure exactly which treatments or other things are included within the Community Care and Assisted Living Act. But I mean, if we wanted to get more specific, we could separate these two things and make a separate category for drug-related rehabilitation centers. But yeah, I don't have that much knowledge of this Community Care Act, to be honest with you.
Yeah, through the mayor, with some of the things, from what I was reading, there were sort of other language or definitions to look into for either a community care facility or a supportive recovery home, or looking at transitional housing, because you do have 3 sort of separate cares there. And depending on the treatment, it can go to a licensed or whatever, but that's more looking at other municipalities' bylaws and Google. And then while we're talking about this, I would like to see the community care facility removed from the manufactured home park zoning. I'm sorry, if you've got a modular home and a park there and you're trying to have up to 10 people for a community cares, where mostly it's families or sort of up to 4 or 5 people. I think just that's putting too many people in one small area there.
Yeah, through the mayor, we can certainly remove it from the community care from the list of permitted uses. Right now, we have it, just to summarize, we have it in agriculture, rural residential, suburban residential, R1, R2, multi-unit, P1, P2, CD1, and then the mobile homes. So we can take it out of the mobile homes if so desired.
Or through the mayor, just to help staff researched this topic. The intent behind the like split, making the division to more strictly control like where supportive recovery homes are located, or to allow them in all residential zones, or I think it would be helpful to hear a little bit more about what the intent is so that we can, Thomas and team can do the research and bring forward the options.
Through the mayor, I'm thinking that if we could look into definitions and looking at it to being able to add two more sections to it, but also for council to have the, what is it, the opportunity, well, not the opportunity, but to be able to, cap and actually know, how many housing and everything we have got going on. From what I can understand, depending, some needs licensing, others do not need licensing.
So to restrict.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to clarify through the mayor, when if somebody was living in a house or any sort of, a commercial building, they are zoning wise allowed to have community care facility. However, they are required to have a license. So we actually, since the previous council meeting, you'll notice that the wording was slightly changed in the definition section to say must have a license rather than may or may not have a license, just to clarify. So there are, if somebody was to approach the licensing authority, that licensing authority, which in this case is not us, would look at all sorts of different requirements before issuing a license.
And one last one.
Go ahead.
Okay,
What page?
page 163, just on the Parks and Rec site-specific expectations. We put noise stipulations on the motocross track. Are there stipulations added to the rifle range, which is right next to it?
So through the mayor, I'm looking at the Parks and Recreation site-specific zoning regulations for 1295 Lillooet District, or parcel. I can't find the this is the motorsports facility. So yeah, no, this is not relating to the rifle range.
So looking at the map, the rifle range is the property to the left, right next to the motocross.
What are the rifle round hours?
That's all I'm.
Okay.
Thank you through the mayor. I don't believe there are, but I do know that the restrictions for some of the caliber of bullets that are used, which then would relate to the noise. I know that they're very restricted just now. I know that the last time I was at the gun range, there was a number of different center point bullets you can't use anymore. The gun range actually prohibits the use of these bullets unless you're there with the RCMP. That's the only other restriction that I know that's there just now is the specifics of the bullets. So if that helps or not.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering because shooting guns is noisy as well. So if there is and we've put a capped it for the hours from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. So I don't know what their actual hours are, but if there should be something similar.
Thank you.
But these hours didn't change. Did they, from what they were?
No, I'm just.
Oh, okay.
Through the mayor, yeah, this was related to, like in the previous zoning bylaw, there were no motorsports facilities allowed. So there was like a site-specific zoning amendment that went to council. And then part of kind of making it appealing maybe to the neighbors was put in these like time limits.
Right. I remember that when it came to council last term, and these people, I believe it was the one living right there, wanted to do this, like they wanted to put it in, they were running it, so that's why we didn't put it in hours.
I believe the shoot started through the mayor, I believe the gun range, the rod and gun club, does have specific hours for it. On the side, the fair side of this specific traffic right there, whereas we could big noise restrictions on pickleball courts.
Flash parts too, but we don't have any.
Specifically, pickleball.
Okay. Councillor Aiken,
My turn now?
yes, it is. What page?
I'll go with the easy ones first. I'm happy to see the community disturbance policy posted in there with the Airbnb. Like, I think that's something we should put on our website there. Yeah, that's kind of what I was referring to, control over the things and people partying and stuff, and it's actually in the website there, where they kick them off the site if there's complaints, right? So if somebody does have somebody with an Airbnb, that's the place to go. The food, they can't rent it. So, yeah, I think people being aware of that is an important thing there. The other thing, like the VRBO is another place where people rent stuff. I'm not sure if there's something on their site that's similar, but yeah, I think that kind of takes us out of the picture as far as policing. Sure. On the maps there, like I had a real hard time distinguishing some of the colors there. I think you guys have made some changes already, but I'm squinting and getting magnifying glasses out and trying to find what's what, and there's screens that are really close to each other, and I'd love for something we could do about that to make it a little easier, but I got the people eyes already, so.
You get you some glasses.
Yeah, so through the mayor, the intention is that this map that we're viewing currently either on paper or on PDF, I see the mayor has it open there. That map is produced in GIS, so that should be a shape file that can be then uploaded to the GIS viewer on the municipal site. So that would make it already easier for the person viewing the map to look at it rather than looking at it on paper, which, yeah, that's a little bit hard. That requires a magnifying glass sometimes.
The other one, I seem to turn into the horse guy here. On page 181, talks about the horses can't be boarded at the facility there. I think that's something we need to allow there, because most people that have the facility are training people's horses, and they'll be boarding them at that location. So I think by not allowing that, we can prevent them from doing that. That makes sense.
That's.
The last line there, void services for horses not owned by the residents of the property.
So you want to take that out?
I do,
You
yeah.
want to remove that?
Just allow people to train horses at their place, not have to take it back.
Through the mayor, which passage are we referring to? Which
Yeah, agenda there, on page 181 or 113 of 135, where it says equestrian center minor. On the last line there is boarding service for horses not allowed by the residents or owned by the residents of the property.
Ah,
Get rid of
yes.
that.
Good to
Yeah.
remove the council? Yeah. Other comments? Yeah, that's in my area. Yeah, we're good. We're all good to remove that.
The other one I have is in the manufactured home parks again.
Page,
Page 141 of 214. It's about what's allowed in there. Like, I know we have RV set up, like in a Good Earth, for example, that are currently set up and people are living in them, and under this, it's not allowed. So I'm not sure if their intent is to get rid of those people, put permanent homes in, or what is going on. And there's the other one that's at the top of the hill, the Mohawk. Right there, I'm not sure if that is a campsite or what, but we've got our RVs that are set up in there. Looks by the map that that's set up in the mobile or manufactured home park as well, so not sure about that.
so. On the right page, I
Yeah, so we're talking Florence and the Good Earth, and I think the one at the top of the hill, Mohawk.
right, and we're looking at sort of piece of it, though.
Maybe it's in the definitions there, actually, in the appendix, maybe.
Because I think with our housing shortage, I think that you know, we don't have a lot of places and these people that live in these designated spots like this, I think we should allow them. There's some, I really do. So, and I think that you can actually do it for 30 days and then we have a thing for 30 days and then they have to change spots, or which is ridiculous. I'd like to see that change this book. Is that what you're saying?
No, like I said, you go to the Good Mobile Home Park,
Right.
there's RVs set up as permanent homes.
Right, and you think,
And we're gonna say that that's not allowed.
Yeah,
in zoning.
right, and I think we should
Is that correct, Thomas? Is
say
that-
that.
So-
it is.
Yeah, so through the mayor, the discussion about allowing RVs as a permanent residence has been, we've had extensive conversations about this internally, staff as well as the building inspector, as well as with James. The reason that RVs are not allowed as residences, other than during the construction of a home, is purely and simply because RVs don't comply with the building code, are not serviced, and therefore are not suitable for permanent habitation. Whereas, you know, mobile home, manufactured home, modular home, these terms, they all refer to a home which is constructed according to the building BC building code. So we've had this discussion. Conclusion now, we are aware that within the district of Lillooet, there are people who do live in RVs, unfortunately. It's not actively enforced. There's no inspector that goes by, but we do know that sometimes, you know, people might have an RV in their backyard and, you know, somebody who's not very fortunate, they might be living in there. But there are health hazards associated with this due to the waste, etc. And therefore, upon conversation with the building inspector, we decided not to allow it.
Okay, go ahead.
I think we're confusing what I'm talking about. I'm thinking the stuff that's set up in mobile home parks that are serviced, they're hooked up to sewer, they're hooked up to power, they're hooked up to water. They're just not a manufactured home, they're an RV, so. I guess that's the difference. I can see the person who put RV in their backyard, but that's not something that's endorsed, but. Yeah, people are set up in the mobile home parks, like. I don't see a problem.
So basically, they got their wheels off and they've got it skirted and that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's set up there basically permanent, but it could be moved at any time. They could drive through there, see a couple of them in there.
Well, I agree that the one at Mohawk, we should allow them to, because we don't have the housing, we don't have, I mean, what would we do with these people? We can't start kicking them out and moving. We have to provide a place for them, and I think that designated spots that have the ability to have RVs, I think we should allow them. I agree that they shouldn't be in people's backyards and people shouldn't be living like that, but you know, we do have designated spots and I have our problem, you know, kick them out because we cannot provide any other housing for them. So
Yeah, through the mayor, I'm thinking if it's serviced, if it's a serviced part and the RVs are serviced, then they should be allowed. If they're unserviced and just in my driveway or something, no.
That's fun.
So just perhaps through the mayor, just to clarify, if we were to make a change to this bylaw, because right now the bylaw explicitly states that RVs are not to be serviced, they're not to be habitated in a permanent fashion. If we were to make that change, that would be a very substantive change, because that way you're going around the goals of the building code, right? Which is to prescribe certain characteristics to a house to ensure its viability as a permanent residence. So initially, when I thought about this, and my initial reaction was, you know, we should just allow it, and you know, why not allow RVs to be serviced, and then it can be, you know, perfectly acceptable. And then after having conversations with a number of people who know much more about this topic than myself, they all recommended that we don't explicitly allow RVs to be used as a permanent residence and be serviced. So of course there's a difference between what is explicitly allowed in the bylaw and what is or what is not enforced. James, do you have any additions to that, what I just said?
Well said, through your worship. I would encourage this as a larger conversation around legalities, and perhaps your chief building official might be best positioned to respond to this one.
Yeah, just to clarify, I did reach out to the District of Lillooet building officer with this exact question. So if council does desire, I mean, that email can be shared after this meeting. Unless we have any reservations, I don't think so. I mean, that's coming straight from him, so.
Can I ask if we were to go with this and say that they're not allowed, and we had the owner of the property in the park, the mobile home park, come and do a variance, would that alleviate the issue? I mean, I know that it doesn't circumvent the building code, but if they did a variance, because if somebody wants to have a higher shed than everybody else, then they can come and do a variance. It's not in the building code, but they can do a variance and we can approve that. So is there any difference here with that if an owner was to come and we do a variance? Christina? Sure.
Just through the mayor, I think this is a big sort of can of worms, and I suggest that maybe the district could get a little bit of legal advice, because if there's liability, you know, if the district starts approving dwellings in RVs, and then, you know, someone has a fire and their camp paramedics can't get in because it's narrow doors, and
Right.
like in the districts, like permitted people living in like structures that are not considered or like not built for long-term habitation, I think there's like potential liability concerns. And I would suggest maybe that staff can come back to the next meeting with a little bit more detailed report and do some more homework and talk to other municipalities and kind of lay out what some of those options are. Yeah, it's kind of a lot to, yeah, it's like.
Through the mayor, I understand the need for people living in RVs. I disagree that having them as a full-time residence. To me, RVs should more for the seasonal worker who are coming in and out. With the talk about mobile home park and then the other one, does staff know the, like, Good Earth Employ Arts, they are zoned as a modular home park. And then is not the one at the top of Moha that is actually zoned, or their licensing is for allowing RVs. It is mobile, it's modular and RV, is it not?
Through the mayor, anyone living in an RV in either park right now is not permitted by our current zoning bylaw, but it's more about a question of enforcement than bylaw. So our current zoning bylaw does not allow people to live permanently in RVs in any of the Wilmington parks.
And this is what I've heard. I don't know if it is actually true or not, but for example, the Good Earth, were there not things for people trying to put in modular homes, but they were too old to be able to be placed, and they were not able to park the modular home that they wanted to, because they had purchased it. It was an older model due to regulations there, so that they had to purchase. There's an age limit, is there not, for moving a modular home into a park?
I believe it's less than 20 years that it's of its lifespan, but it can be moved into it. I'm afraid I'm not able to answer that question. I'm sorry.
But no, I do have problem with the RV as a permanent residence. As Miss Tim said, with your fire, your doors and everything else there. Having an RV park, yes, open for seasonal staying, yes, but not for full-time residency.
I don't think there'd be any legal way that we can ever approve an RV all year round living kind of idea. I don't think there's going to be any real way that we can get through that piece of government, which is supposed to one up is to even look at it. We were even just looking at things like snow loads and back check valves and all the stuff that you go through. The seasonal stuff, yep, works. That's the reason we have, but we're also affecting people coming here to camp. If it's set up that way, then it causes problems, causes issues for tourism, causes problems with things like that as well. Also causes problems with a kind of, we go to the lowest denominator, unfortunately, for the standards. And then that's what we end up with. And it's never typically the best way to go with it. So I think we can come back at this one. I think we can definitely look at it. I've seen a number of different locations. Again, the people set these up as all year round living. And then starts off with the wheels come off, the skirting goes on, an awning goes up, then there's a gazebo, then there's a deck, and then there's a concrete pad, and then there's a garage, and then there's a shop, and then that shop's shedding water onto the next person's loft. And it migrates, right? Because there's no controls in place. And then what ends up happening is, fortunately, Corey gets called out at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and fight a fire. And it's a disaster. And that's when people get really, really hurt. And if we allow it, then we allow it. And I don't think there'll be any way for us to kind of allow it, unfortunately, because what ends up happening is it creeps, it expands, it evolves, it changes, but it evolves and changes on a foundation that was never designed to be built on the top of. It was designed to be rolling down the road at 100 kilometers an hour. And that's what ends up happening with these things. And in relation to asking for variances on things, absolutely. People do ask for variances all the time to build an extension on for a little bit of a higher shed, but that's done to the BC building code. That's built on the BC building code and not on a variance. If we can vary, but we can't vary the BC building code. What we can, I would suggest not. But I think there's limits to how much we can do. And I would suggest, and I would strongly steer council away from even kind of looking at that side of things. I think there is an enforcement part to it. The enforcement part is how much we want to look at. Like I always say, we can throw a dart at a map and we can start enforcing certain things and we can go to town on it. It's not necessarily an intention. And I think that Moha and places like that will evolve out of where they are just now. And I think we'll be helping, we encourage them through bylaws, but we don't need that stringent regulatory enforcement straight away on it. But I think we look at it and try and kind of help them out and try and find different locations for things. I think works well.
Okay, Councillor B. Thank you. Through the mayor, that's what I was wondering, like the people that are living in these places now, what's going to happen with them? Like, where are they going to go? I know there was an issue with Good Earth at one time. You just tell me to be quiet.
You're fine.
Thank you. Rather be the windshield. I'm just curious, like I know between Moha and Good Earth, there's always been, I don't think Floyard so much, but Moha and Good Earth, there's always been an issue, and I didn't know if it was with the licensing or what, like that one was an RV park and it wasn't an RV park, and then it went through different owners and different things changed. But what happens to these people that are now living in like a fifth wheel in one of these parks? Are they going to be given a certain amount of time to remove themselves or move down to the campground? Or like, I don't know that I'm comfortable with that sort of thing in the housing situation that we're in. I'm thinking if they could afford a place and could find a place, they'd be in it. I don't know of anybody who wants to live in their camping facility. Well, I shouldn't say that,
Yeah,
but they probably are.
Yeah, I think that these are really great conversations, and they're big conversations, and through the mail, they're complex conversations they kind of have, and not all of everybody's worldly problems are the responsibility of council. And there's people that live in tents, there's people that live in bunkers on Main Street, there's people that have all of these other lives given to them, thrust upon them just now as well, and it's difficult. And I will say, and I'm hand-on part when I came to move to Lillooet at the beginning. One of the things that my wife and I were considering was buying an RV and putting it there and allowing me to live in an RV for a while, because it would have worked for me. It would have been a, rather than spending the money and a mortgage, I could have spent the money on an RV and lived in that. And it's, as a guy living himself, it's got a washing machine, it's got a kitchen, it's got a bed on it. That works for me. Don't need anything glamorous. I'm sure that a load of our staff would look at that at the beginning stages to kind of do that. But what we do is we end up coming back around to what we can allow, what we can permit, what we can regulate, what we can over-regulate, what we don't want to do there, but what we can legally regulate as part of the BC building code, and what we can actually say is safe and not safe. And, sometimes we need to look at what the consequences are for us, and unfortunately we don't want to stray too far from all the consequences of things that are going to affect everybody else did afterwards. What happens if we permit people to live in these trees and there's a huge fire in them and 4 people die because we permitted it? So all these other kind of things. It's a good conversation that you have, but I don't think there'll be a way that we can get around that. There's a way we can enforce it. I don't think we will be able to.
Is there a way if we were to make the campground, if they had, year-round, like plugins or whatever? Because we were talking about doing that at the campground years ago and just making that so that people could stay there year-round.
Yeah, I think that through the mayor, the problem and issue that we have is we always keep coming back around to, are we permitting people to live in RVs all year round? And is that something that we're promoting? Are we actually saying that? Is that something that we can't do? And I don't know if legally we're allowed to even do
In a
that.
campground, Thomas, can I ask, in a campground, does that have any, ability to allow RVs?
So, yeah, Madam Mayor, it all comes back down to the same conversation. If you allow it in a campground, which is zoned, institutional, or if you allow it in an industrial zone, it all comes back to the same thing, which is, are you or are you not allowing permanent residents in a non-BC Building Code compliant vehicle? So it's my understanding that it's not relevant in which zone it occurs. It's just relevant that it occurs.
Okay, I was looking for a loophole, didn't get it.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
absolutely, I understand.
Okay. Councilor McNary.
So we're gonna make this bylaw, and we're kind of getting forced to making this bylaw set up. Is there any way that we can get a hold of the owners and let them know that when those people move out, they're not allowed to put an RV in that place again?
Yeah,
That's fair.
through the mayor. I mean, that's a way of enforcing it, right? You're essentially, if you were to take that approach, you're formalizing the fact that you're not going to enforce for the short term until they decide to move or take their camper away or replace it or what have you. So I don't know the legality of that, because once you approach them, you're somehow tolerating this situation. So we might need to look into that further. What would be the legality of then approaching these people with this message?
A lot of points that been brought to me just now is if we were just to, so if you allow people to permanently live and stay on something, then they fall under the Tenancy Act and you can't get rid of them. And then we end up in a whole other, so if we were to say, let's take the campground and allow people to live down there permanently, once people are living somewhere permanently, you fall under the next stage, which is the Tenancy Act, because you're permitting people to actually live somewhere permanently. When you've lived there somewhere permanently, then you've said, yeah, that's a suitable occupancy, you've given them their occupancy, or basically did that, then we're in a whole, and we're not a landlord, so now we're in a whole other ball game of what we've allowed and what we've permitted in this. Then we end up in, if I use the bunker on Main Street and you allow somebody to live in it, you've said that that's your place of occupancy, you've said that it's habitable under the BC Building Code, we've ignored, and then you've permitted it, you've allowed it, good luck getting them out. We end up in the next ball of worms. So I think what he's saying is, yeah, we then start phasing that out, periodically moving forward, and that kind of works.
Mayor again, I remember from a municipal insurance workshop that once you know about something, you're liable for it if you don't do anything.
That's
It's true.
Yeah, I still remember that stuck in my head. If you don't know, that's one thing, but once you know and you're aware and then you better. Yeah. I think we're on YouTube.
Yeah.
I've got one more.
Go ahead.
Thought that was gonna be the easy one. I'm not sure if this is the place for the mayor to talk about this, but I know the properties on the BLA and Fair Road, they used to have a right of way for access to the river. And I don't see those on the map anymore. Like if somebody was to go down to the river and BLA to walk their dog well, they have to go down through the sewer plant, which there's sign up all the right place that says you're not supposed to go there. So now there's no actual access to the river from any of those places there, which I may be wrong, but it seems like something that we should have. I mean,
You thought there was access to the BLA properties?
well, there was like a lot or a right of way between lots at one point.
We do have one lot,
And between 880, sorry, through the mayor, in between 880 and 924, there's a lot.
on Orchard Drive, right?
Yeah, on Orchard Drive, and then there's another one further down between 640 and 592. There's two strips of land on both of those, I believe, that allow for it. I could be wrong, there could be another one as well, but there's definitely two very specific ones there that I believe are designated lots. Very specifically designated.
Okay.
We could turn that into a better, we could probably do a better job at marketing. You know, how we can make that a trail ahead and providing a parking stall and doing that. But I think that there's those lots there that are not sellable for.
Yeah, and there's something on Fair Road as well there too.
On Clear Road, where was that one, sorry?
McEwen Road, I guess, sorry. McEwen Road.
Yeah, the subdivision act is something that waterways need. Like, you don't need to build a trail necessarily, but there needs to be public access to waterways. So I mean, I think it's quite steep in some areas, but there is like the right of ways that. public
Yeah, between
access does.
178, 182, there's also a right of way as well. That's the only one that's down there that is just now, but it definitely exists. May not be very prevalent, very obvious, but it exists.
Yeah, thank you. Like I think long term in the future, we should sort of take advantage of this to make access points for trails and stuff. But that's another discussion. I just wanted to make sure it was still on there somewhere.
I have one more question about the actual, just the map. I noticed that the properties on Main Street, very tiny, that are in purple. Those are all the commercial properties, and it goes from the bakery, and I think it includes the bakery, right down to the Reynolds, and it says mixed commercial zone. So we brought this up last time. If this is a mixed commercial zone, are they allowed residential houses on mixed commercial? Because, so if somebody's house burns down, can they rebuild the house? Thomas?
Yes. So indeed, so we changed the wording previously, I believe before the previous council discussion, to allow I'll pull it up right now, allow the single family home as well.
Okay, all right, perfect. That's it. Thank you. Okay, any other questions on this zoning bylaw? It's like the binding video. Okay, well. Where's the phone? Councilor McMary,
No, I'm okay.
you sure?
There's a whole lot to take in the short little term here.
Yeah.
And There's a lot of problems with it, I think, that need to be straightened out. And we're gonna vote on this and put this into another stage. I'm hesitant on that.
Well, I'm hoping with the public input, the public will come. More than 50.
I'm not really pleased in the public. I mean, you know, we're going on 24 feedbacks on some of it and whatnot. And you know, boy, 24 people out of all our community isn't something to go on, I don't think. But that's my fault.
And through the mayor, when's our next public session?
Our public hearing, we haven't set a date for it yet, but we're thinking maybe, mid-October, early to mid-October.
Okay.
It's
Through the mayor, one option would be, because this is a lot to digest and take in, I would still suggest doing second reading tonight, but then we could put this on the agenda for the September 16th meeting, and if council wants to discuss any additional items, there's still time to make changes before third readings, which we wouldn't do until October. So we could kind of set aside some time that if anyone wants to dive into anything a little bit further, it gives us sort of an opportunity to maybe bring some information back, like about the EV options and stuff.
Well, we could do that then. I mean, I don't think we need the
What about the October meeting?
The October meeting.
Yeah, it would be better, because I will not be here on the 16th.
You could be though.
No, I can't be.
You can think about it.
No, thank you.
Hmm. Trust your counterparts. Yeah, you have to trust us. You have to trust us.
Okay.
We could do a committee of the whole.
Be here.
We could do a committee of the whole meeting prior to that. I don't know. We already have one scheduled for the 16th, I think.
I mean, just an hour left, maybe the 15th. That's through the mayor. Can we suggest that we do a committee though? I know Councillor McNary won't be here for the 15th, potentially the 15th. Could you make a suggestion then, the committee, we can do a committee of the whole on the 13th September? Does that give staff enough time to go away and make a couple of
The what day? 13th or September?
15th,
15th?
15th of September?
Randy, when are you leaving?
14th.
Perfect timing. We can do the 15th, we can make the amendments, the changes that we had discussed. Does that give staff enough time?
We did the
Not to make
11th.
the changes, but to
You can bring it into consideration. I believe our consultants will not be available during that.
No,
That's all, but we can definitely. To be in,
Yeah, I'm gonna be out of town for 2 weeks,
yes, okay.
starting at the end of this week, or starting at the end of tomorrow, actually, so the 15th wouldn't work for me. I mean, if we bring it to the 30th for kind of a second discussion after council's had time to review further, that would work fine, and then we could, then we plan a third reading end of October and plan in plan that in.
give
Randy,
Perhaps.
when you be back?
I'll probably be back on the 29th or the 30th. It sounds out simple.
Well, I'm good with, like, we could go before September 11th. Would that give enough time? I know we won't have the consultants, but. Or
The 11th would work for
September
me.
30th or October 1st,
Just push it when we can. It just push
or
it.
maybe just to be determined. We'll talk about this after.
If
Back.
it doesn't sound, through the mayor, it doesn't sound as if we're going to be back for the 15th or 16th anyway. Any changes on it, Tom's been away, so let's just push it to October. And Councillor McNary will be there at it as well. You know, we're close, guys. I think we're getting into it. You know, when you find yourself getting into weeds with these things, you know you're getting close. It's a positive thing.
I would rather have the entire council here.
It's
It's a big one, right? So, okay, with that, will somebody please move that the zoning bylaw number 2025-026 be read a second time? Counselor Aiken? Counselor Reeve, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Mayor and
Thank you.
Council.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good work.
Ready's not thank you.
Thank you, James.
Okay, any notice of motions? None? Okay, report. Pretty short. I was away vacation. It was super good. Thank you, Councilor Plant, for the past few weeks of that in there. Always, makes for a better vacation for me when you're there. Awesome, thanks. And right now, we're just working on UBCM. The resolution for the ARC funding assistance was put under endorsed block, which means that a whole bunch of resolutions are put forth, and they're gonna endorse it as a whole block, which I was really disappointed because I really wanted to speak to it. I know Lytton wants to speak to it and a few other communities, but it was under the endorsed block, so it is what it is. And we'll be meeting with them, the Mayor's Rural Health Group. We'll meet in the legislative building with Minister Josie Osborne. Joe's gonna facilitate this meeting, and I've already got people saying, yes, yes, yes. And I've got 3 speakers, so it'll be interesting. Good, that's it for me. Councilor Aiken.
It's been pretty quiet for me on the counseling front there, but I wanted to make a comment on the skate park thing that has been repaired. I think myself and Councillor Reeve are part of the original committee that built that thing, and Bill's negligent, letting it get to that point where the district had to fix it. But I think there's just not enough people that are involved in making the skate park club anymore that can look after it there. So it's nice to see that somebody made it happen, but sad it's a mess. And the last 9 days I spent traveling up to Terrace and biking, seeing all the communities up there that are doing amazing things on their bike front. I wish we could do something like that here, but it's some challenges that can overcome and make it happen. But yeah, it's amazing when you go to Terrace and it's beautiful here.
Councilor Plant.
I was acting mayor from August 9 to 27. That's it. I can keep it short.
And what'd you think? How was it? All right. Councilor McNary.
Is all I can report is, I think Councilor Flan done a good job. Well, you're gone, and, I think you're doing a very good job with the hospital thing. We haven't had any closures last while.
Do have 3 more doctors coming, and they're coming in 2 weeks, and if anybody knows of any housing. Modular home, right? Or not RVs, not RVs, but yeah, let me know. But yeah.
I mean, they kicked me out of bars.
Really? We'll talk later. Councilor Weep.
I've been on vacation all summer with tons of company, but other than that, like I say, the only thing about the skateboard park for me, seeing as Councilor Aiken brought it up, I would have liked to have a conversation because there is a skate park society, and I understand that we did refurbish it a couple of times. And I think they've done an amazing job. And other than that, I think I'm gonna get our very few members together and see if we could do something with funds that we have in the bank so that we're just done, whether we hand it over to the district or what we do with it. That's another conversation. I think there's a couple of plaques that need to go up over there. That we had at a meeting a long time ago. So try to get on that to get them ordered and in, and yeah, I think that they did a great job down there for students and teachers, and it's awesome. And Councillor Flan did an amazing job as acting mayor, and she did our meeting. She was so, oh my goodness, she was just amazing.
There you go.
I told her to run for mayor.
What'd she say? You tell.
No, I can't tell. It's gonna be a big surprise. I'm joking, but yeah, she did do a really great job at the meetings.
Thank you. Christina, I don't know, I sent you an email like in future, thing, can you jump on that one? And I'll do the rest of it. So I just before we play this, I want to introduce our two new staff members. We have Elder Tracker, Daryl Gunn, who's our new Chief Financial Officer. We were not going to do an appointment tonight for a financial officer because we are going to do we will do that moving forward. We'll do that in the next couple of weeks. Like it was his first day, doesn't need his first day as zoning bylaw amendments changes. Having to put up with me 40 degree heat, not having a mobile phone, having to move into his office, potentially buying an RV that he's not allowed to stay in now, and then also then getting appointed as a CFO in front of the council. So I wanted to kind of give him just a couple of days just to kind of get settled in. I also wanted to do a transfer of services from Pat, who is a financial officer who we appointed. Wanted to just give her an opportunity to also kind of work with us. Eldon is a local, so everybody here should kind of know Eldon or know Eldon Stracker and sit with the family. I just wanted to kind of get these guys here, give them an introduction, meet council, welcome to the kind of team. I don't expect them to be, well, financial officer, yes, I would expect them to be at all of our council meetings. Eldon will be learning the ropes and working his way around. What he does comes with a significant amount of operational experience from CN, and also that all comes from working in different small communities in and around BC and
Saskatchewan, and Northwest Territories.
So worked in that area and worked in the around.
I'm equipped for the cold. I don't know if I'm equipped for this heat. It's
new.
These temperatures are pretty hot.
It is pretty hot. It does get hot.
The down in the air conditioners for.
Well, everyone's feeling it, because I think we all know the fact that the temperature is there. But there's something that I wanted to bring forward. We worked with these, you guys call it Nissan, I call it Nissan. So Nissan have produced a 60th anniversary advert that was aired in television. This is quite cool. The small things that you get to do economic development sometimes.
It's very fast. You gotta.
You gotta say it a couple times.
Great place.
For 60 years, farm's been riding excitement across Canada. 60 years of fighting, 60 years of setting the pace, 60 years of pushing boundaries. Here's to the next 60, Canada. Sun, #1 for new vehicle quality.
All there when we were racing all the time.
Yeah, so luckily they didn't use the Sparks, as CGI or whatever it's called, but you know, you get to do some really cool projects now and again. We got to work with that team, we got to bring a lot of money to town. We made good money off of that advert. It's advertising for our community, it's good adverts for our community, it's very positive. We filled the hotels, the restaurants, the advertising agencies were very impressed with how our community responded to them. Working alongside Ministry of Transportation. So we do get to do some really cool things. We do get to do some really cool, unique little projects as well. And I think that just goes to kind of show, you know, that we do live in a really beautiful community, and the freedom to get to work in communities like that. You get to work with international car brands that choose the community, that choose the airport. There's a lot of work in that. You know, we had to put in no dams, no fly areas. We had to modify the times, the schedules for the drag race, and you know, there's a lot involved in that whole kind of thing. It wasn't just use the little Lululemon horseshoe thing and you're stripped for a day. That was a week of over 100 people coming to town And community, and I think it's good recognition for us. I'll put together a CEO report for the next council meeting, but we're getting prepped up and ready for UBCM. Now that we have Eldon here, now that we have Darrell here, I'm expecting a little bit more kind of workload to be taken off my plate in the next little while, so it'll be nice for me to focus back on council and its priorities, but yeah, we're working our way through large grant applications, we're working our way through a number of good things, so it's getting to that time of year again that we're starting to look at next year, starting to look at budgets, starting to look at what we're including this year for finances, so yeah, we're forward with it. Awesome, thank you.
Okay, let's go back to new business. We've got 7.1.4, and that was page 17 and 18 of the agenda. And Councillor Glenn.
Okay, I just wanted to, about the, reminder for the Lillooet power outage from September 14 and 15. During the last meeting, we sort of discussed about giving the public notice that there was, the potential of us, implementing a stage 2 and 3 water restriction. I just wanted to know that, are we still doing that, and have we thought about how we are going to be letting the public know if we're going to be just doing it on social media, which really doesn't affect, get a larger audience, or if we will be utilizing Void Alert for that?
Yeah, thank you through the mayor. So this is going to fall under Eldon's department. I'm not going to ask him if he's doing that. That'd be terribly unfair for me. But I can assure you that Eldon will be issuing a stage 2 water conservation on the upcoming days. So what we would like to try and do is maybe try and do that on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday of before the closures. We will use void alerts, and we will make sure that we come back out on social media and we'll give some information about it. If we do not see significant reductions in water in the day before it, we may need to go to stage 3. I'm hoping not to do that, but I will ask council's approval this time before doing it. Apologies. But I will make sure that what we do is we see what the water conservation looks like the days before it. And if the water conservation is showing in the right trend, that we're staying above 76 or 80% water, then we will keep it remaining to a stage 2. If we do not see that, then it would be the intention to get council together, either for a special council meeting or just for a straw poll, just to put it to stage 3. I will use point there.
Yeah, I think if people know why we're doing it, because in case there's a fire or whatever, we shouldn't have too many problems with that.
Absolutely.
After the motion. For a few minutes.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Want to grab a water? Barb with a question. Oh, it's great. Good morning.
Yeah, you should be
Okay.
right back.
We are good. So we are still on 7.1.4. Do you have a question?
I was just curious. I don't know what our standings are with BC Hydro Communication, but I thought they've been doing, robocalling or whatever about this shutdown. I've had 2 or 3 phone calls and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be kind of neat if they had kind of, when they're doing the Lillooet ones, say there could be a change in your water regulations or whatever, if we had that opportunity to talk to whoever they use for communications.
Okay.
It was just a thought.
Okay. Moving on to 7.1.7, page 25 of the agenda. Councillor Kwan.
That's me again. Just about the potential closure of the mill, a closure for the mill, even a short time, really does have serious impacts on the town, on the families, the businesses, the whole community. I really would like to, put a request in is if staff could, draft up a letter of some sort for, Premier Eby, Minister Parmar, MLA Luck, and also, MP Caputo, just to remind them of the, impacts for situations like this on small communities and also for the province. And urge them to immediately look into these challenges with the BC forest sector and find a way to be able to expedite permits. A mill closure doesn't only just affect the mill employees and their families, but it ripples off into those directly reliant on the forest industry. You go into the logging companies, you've got the road builders, the layout, logging truck drivers, your chip haul drivers as well, which people kind of forget about that as well. And then it fans out to all of our businesses and all the other people that their livelihoods depend on mill operations and dollars.
So can we ask staff to, council approves to write a letter to those honorable people and relay our concerns about the permit approvals wait times.
Could we find out the problems that they're having? Why they're being delayed first, like also? Or would that come back to us through the letters?
Yeah, through the mayor, we can certainly try and ask for a kind of consultation. I mean, I think that that will be a very complex answer. It won't be the issue is stumpage fee, so the issue is allocation, the issue is one thing. I'm pretty sure it'll be a pretty complex later thing, but I won't shy away from asking if there's anything we can do to support them. Yeah, we can ask those questions, sure.
All in favor of asking for a letter? Okay, all approved. Good, and I don't think I had, we did 7.1.4 received this information, so Councillor Kwan, Councillor Weaver in favor. And it's great. Okay, questions from the media not here and questions from the public that left, so.
Wendy did, sorry, through the mayor, Wendy did send an apologies tonight. But she's nursing a very sick 14-year-old cat. So Wendy is our media reporter, a very good media reporter. So thinking of you, Wendy.
Okay, will somebody please move that the regular council meeting of the district as will let be closed to the public pursuant to the community charter division section 91I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Councilor Kwan, Councilor McNary, all in favor, carried. Okay.
Thank you.